Hey guys, you can get the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast streamed right to your phone or any device that you have Spotify on. Just search for Billionaire Lifestyle under the podcast section. Also, you can find it at the usual places, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. Now, on with the show. Today, we have former Division I head coach Tim Miller, who has moved into the realm of hypnosis. Stage Hypnosis Live, which he runs with his wife. And we are going to talk today about hypnosis, marriage, love, family, and life.
Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, today I have my man Tim on the line. Tim is talking about all the things in life that you need to move forward. And one of those things is sometimes you need some self-talk. Sometimes you need some talk from the outside to get you motivated to move forward and to hypnotize yourself. But it's all about family, marriage, and relationships when it comes to life. How you doing today, Tim?
Emmett, I am great. I'm fired up to be on the phone with you today.
And you're coming from an actual performance that you've had recently. How did that go?
Oh, it went great. As I think you know, we have a comedy hypnosis show. So my wife and I are blessed to travel even internationally to perform. And we were in Annapolis, Maryland last night. And I don't know if you've ever been there before, but what a beautiful place.
Big military facility too, right?
Yes. We were right in the heart of it. We do a good bit of government shows, but last night was for a private corporate event. And I tell you what, people had an incredible time. And even this morning when my wife and I went, on town and we saw people that were at the show, it's just great to see so many people have such an incredible time. So it was fun. So we're driving back to Philadelphia as we speak.
Let me ask you this, because this is really kind of rare. You see it in older couples, but you don't necessarily see it in younger couples and mid couples because a lot of people break up nowadays. You and your wife work together to facilitate your business. How do you guys keep that together?
I tell you what, it is really a unique situation that we have, especially as you mentioned this day and age. My wife and I truly are best friends. I mean, I can't get enough of her, to be honest with you. One of the reasons I left coaching years ago, she supported me regardless of what I did. I mean, we could go in the middle of nowhere and she would be right there for me. But I wanted to spend more time with my wife. And I have a real estate company. And as a hobby, I started this hypnosis just a little over 2 years ago. And I really started it to make her laugh. I love it. My wife has the best laugh in the world. And I started it to make her laugh because I'm a goofball. And I thought I would do one show a year for real estate clients. Before you knew it, I mean, we have performed now internationally. A couple months ago, we did a couple shows out in Hollywood. We've done shows for prime ministers and first ladies. We might be doing a show this spring for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm doing a show in the spring to benefit Project Home, which is an incredible organization in Philadelphia. They have 15 residence buildings for the homeless. We're going to be doing that show at the Leah Core Center, which is a 10,000-seat arena. And we now just aired on Thursday, we aired our own reality TV show, which in a million years, I never would think I would have my own reality TV show. So how do we stay together? We love to make each other laugh. And last night, I always feel my show is successful if I make my wife laugh. Because if I make her laugh, she sees each and every show. She works the computer. She works the sound effects. We work together to come up with new material. So it's a different dynamic because we often bring that husband and wife thing on stage because most of us in one way or another can relate to having relationships. And so I love surprising her. If you ever watch our TV show, the TV show shows me often doing things that she wasn't aware that I was going to do. So it's a long-winded answer to your question, but our friendship and our understanding of being together for close to 30 years and keeping things fresh we've been very blessed to see the incredible benefits to having a great marriage.
And you guys have been together for quite some time now. And
yes, sir.
Thinking about football. So in this day and age with masculinity just kind of splayed out and on attack, a lot of people don't know how to be the yin and yang in a relationship. And it seems you guys have done a great job at that. Was it always so smooth, or was there some serious work that you guys had to do, or just kind of step back and know your role in the relationship between the two? Maybe some pointers you could help with other people as well.
Well, let me tell you, I think like anything that's great that you can achieve in life, there's so much work that's involved with it. And often people try to not understand that. They don't understand that, for us, we have an incredible marriage, but we've worked really hard at it. Also we had to overcome some other things. We're talking about late 80s, 90s, and I'm a white person, she's black. And, it was different then, it was definitely different, but we were very fortunate to be from very supportive families. And as time has gone on, those types of things have become more popular. But I think when you determine a relationship and how successful it's going to be, it's more about what you've overcome versus what you've achieved. And I find that a lot of times, especially nowadays, when adversity hits a relationship, it's so easy just to pack up your tents and go in separate ways. But the thing I could encourage all your listeners, that if you're in a point in your relationship where, adversity is there, that's opportunity. Because if you find a way to make it through that adversity, you have just taken your relationship and you've made it so strong. And a lot of these things I've actually learned from football, from my time of playing football and coaching football. Believe it or not, I find a lot of similarities between the two.
So let me ask you this question. You're from football, and football is all about getting to the first down. And sometimes you can have inches to go, and that's the hardest thing to do. Is it the same in marriage too?
Without question. I use a lot of analogies with football. And sometimes, when we're trying to achieve a goal, regardless of what it is, sometimes it feels like we're so far away from that goal, but really, in all reality, we're just maybe steps away. I know you brought up your faith, and my wife and I, we put that at the forefront. Our foundation in our relationship is our faith in Christ and in God. And often we ask God for something, and then we expect it to be right at our doorstep the next day. What we don't realize is that God has that plan working right down. It might be upstream, just not that far away. And when we talk about being inches to go for that first down, often, if we just get through that day, or maybe get through that dinner, or just get through something that's right in our immediate and not look at the big picture, before you know it, our situation might end up being resolved. And because of that, we've just created such an incredible bond and incredible relationship, because you and I both know it. Those tough times are coming. Whether we like it or not, they're coming. And when you get into a relationship and you're able to overcome those things, then, that just builds confidence. And if you relate it to football, you end up, we're Eagles fans, right? Eagles are converting like crazy on fourth down. Now, how do you think that team, now they just lost, one of their best players, but how do you think that team feels after they've converted 4, 5, 6, 7 fourth downs in the first down? The next time they go for it on fourth down, is their confidence going to be greater, or is it going to be less? It's going to be greater, right? Same thing in our relationships. As we go through tough times and we overcome them, as another tough time comes before us, we say, hey, we've been there. We know it. And now being together for 30 years, and when those tough times come down the pike, whether it's a problem we're having internally with our relationship or something from the outside coming in, we have the confidence now. We know we can do it. We know we're going to be there for each other, and we're going to get it done. So just like that first down, it's the same thing in a marriage.
Awesome. One of the things about marriage, and what happens all too often, is that children come into the marriage or into the relationship very early before you can make that foundation of your friendship and solidify it. How have you guys navigated that? Because you and I talked, and we both had kids at a very early age or very early in our relationships. How have you guys navigated that throughout your career of marriage?
You know, I like to say that everything was smooth, but Lord, it wasn't. It wasn't, because honestly, you know, all three of my kids are 100% my kids, but my two oldest, my 28 and 30-year-old, I adopted them when they were 6 months, and my daughter was probably around 18 months. All right. My wife was in a previous relationship. And I never mentioned that outside of this because I see no difference between all three of our kids. And we're so blessed to have such a close family. But, you know, going into a relationship like that, it even makes it tougher, you know, because there was a lot of hurdles that we had to overcome. But, you know, my wife saw something in me and I saw something in her. And the analogy I like to use is, you know, in order for a relationship and a marriage to be successful, it requires 100%. And everybody wants to say, okay, yeah, 100%. You do 50% and the other person does 50%. But you know what? To me, to break it and make it real simple, that's the problem right there. Because it's not 50-50 all the time. You know, sometimes I might have to give 98%. And she can only give 2% at that point in time in a relationship. But then maybe there's a time that, you know, I'm down or whatever, and I'm struggling and I'm wrong or whatever, and she'll step up and she'll do her 90% or 95%. But you have to understand that in a relationship requires 100% effort. And if one person in a relationship at certain points in time have to pick up the slack, have to swallow their pride, have to do whatever it takes, that's what it takes to have an incredible marriage.
You know, you're dropping some science on people right now, and I pray that the Billionaire Lifestyle audience kind of soaks it up. Yes, we're using sports analogies here because everybody can really relate to it, even if you're not a sports fanatic or even if you're into sports heavily. These are very relatable to life. Now, there's one area that I've kind of endeavored in, and I'm sure you have too, which is the personal foul. Is when you do something either overtly or inadvertently that kind of doesn't resonate with your partner. How do you guys come out of that?
Yeah, you know, that's tough. I mean, and when you mention about kids, you know, you're talking about something that, you know, you value above everything, right? Both of you. You know, you have a common goal with your kids, but let's be honest, when you're raising kids, there's going to come different situations where you feel something should be done one way and your partner feels it should be done a different way. I mean, that's just going to happen, you know? And I think communication solves everything. And, you know, if I want to kind of pull in a football analogy, we try not to go too far off the path here, but, you know, if you look at successful football programs, you know, you got all different types of personalities. I mean, you couldn't be any further from music to interest to whatever. You know, you got such a wide range of different personalities. And if you look at the difference between successful programs and programs that struggle, often you're going to find that the communication, although they're never going to agree on certain things, they just aren't. But programs come to the realization to understand that they're not going to be able to change that individual, but how do they find common ground and how do they find ways of working together to solve a common goal? So, like, if you were to take our relationship, I think our biggest, and my wife's sitting right beside me, I think our biggest struggles came when we were raising our kids. And although we both understood we wanted the best for our kids, you know, how we should go about that often, you know, was sometimes a tug of war. And I think communication and understanding when it's time to maybe stop that communication for a second, to go maybe, you know, to catch your breath for an hour or 2 hours, that's the secret you have to find in your relationship. And it's not a template for that, right? You know, it would be great if there was, but there's no template because we're all different. You know, she knows what she can do to push my buttons. I know what I could do to push her buttons. And, you know, the trick is it more important for you to feel like you're right, or is it more important for you to have such an incredible relationship that you can take to your death? And I would encourage all your people listening that go for the relationship. Put your pride to the side sometimes. Allow your partner to be correct once in a while, even most of the time. And, she has done that for me. I've done that for her. And as a result now, those problems, they very rarely happen anymore because we've developed an understanding of things that we just need to give the other person. Even though I know I'm right in those situations. You sit right here. Once in a while, you just have to say, you know what, I'm going to give you that one, because for the better, for the more important cause is the relationship in the long term of the relationship.
Awesome information. How did you come to the fact you said, hey, I want to do this thing. I'm really interested in the hypnosis and pulling this together. What was your involvement with her? Did you say, hey, I'm going to need some help here? Or was it just like, she was like, I got you. I got your back. Let's just move forward.
I wish I could tell some great story of how smart I am at planning this whole thing out, but really, we just kind of stumbled into it. As I mentioned, I started this show as a hobby. I started, she knows I'm, in a good way, crazy. I love making her laugh. I mean, that is just at the tops. But when you're with someone for 30 years, it gets a little different. It gets a little difficult because they've been there, done that. I mean, how many times you go out with your wife and you say something corny or whatever, and she's heard it a million times. The person in front of you is thinking it's great. So this was a way that I thought I would do maybe a show a year. And it's the very first show I did, I had a friend that was a DJ because we use a lot of music. We use a lot of, sound effects in the show. And I quickly found like, you know what, Michelle, you could be doing this. And I talked her into kind of working the computer and doing that type of thing. And now it took her a while to understand that her role in the show was so important because she always wants, like, now we perform sometimes in front of thousands of people, so she always prefer to be, like kind of in the background, off to the side of the stage. And I always want to pull her out, because she has such an incredible laugh. And she has finally realized that people love seeing her and love seeing that interaction between a couple on stage. So like last night's show, for an example, she has just as many people coming up to her after the show as I do, because she really brings something. She brings an element that I could never give to the performance. So I think that I like to say that although I kind of drug her into this thing, she's been so supportive of me that now, we're getting to do things just like, we're driving back from Annapolis now. We'd never do that. If we were in Los Cabos, Mexico performing, we probably would never have chosen to go there and do that. So because of her confidence and faith in me, to maybe do something where she really thought, like, what the heck are we doing? I think we now have found something that we mutually are building, and we're excited about it.
So when your kids you're not quite communicating with them, do you put the hypnosis on them?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, the one thing, just to get it out on the forefront, you can't be hypnotized unless you want to be. It's not a hocus pocus.
Right.
It's a very natural state of being. But, in all seriousness, we're so lucky to have such a great family dynamic. I mean, really, our kids love being around us. I mean, they even were that way when they were teenagers. We'd say, what's wrong with you guys wanting to be with us? And they would say to us, what's wrong with you guys that you like each other so much? Because, in our kids, I'm sure the same for your kids, a lot of their friends are divorced. And, here we are, the biggest goofballs you could ever imagine. So right now, our kids, they actually are, next week's episode, our TV episode airs every Thursday at 1:30 on a regional network in PA, Jersey, Delaware. And our kids are being brought into that episode. So now, they're getting to kind of share in some of the things that we're doing. Our son, who proposed to his fiance last year, he actually did it during our show. We had a show event, and she had no idea, and he had asked me, he wanted to do it in a very special way. So I could actually send you a little clip of that. It was really cool. So our kids are kind of getting intertwined with the things that we're doing. So they think it's pretty neat.
You alluded to this earlier. In the 80s, I was married and my wife was white, I'm black. And we experienced some crazy stuff. Like, for one thing, we used to always get sit in the back of the restaurant.
Oh, Lord.
Until one day I was just like, no, I want that seat there. Have you guys, I mean, because that's added pressure on your relationship. Have you guys experienced things like that and then discuss them and bring them out and help your kids understand as well?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was really blessed because I spent most of my childhood in a black community, and a community that's very, very proud of me. But then I also had, a very strong white family that, when I was pretty young, my father took a chance, went out on his own, and he made a good bit of money. So I was blessed to go in your typical, very wealthy, predominantly white at that time, probably pretty much all white at that time, country clubs where I played basketball. I was a pretty good athlete where I'd be the only white person to be 300 black people, so, and I grew up in the same community as my wife. Actually, her brother, best friends since we were 6 years old. And when I say best friends, I mean, we lived together for 4 or 5 years when we were in high school and everything else. We're kind of unique in that sense. But I do remember when we were starting, I specifically remember us going and, we could afford an apartment. We were turned down from it, and I know exactly why. And, we both were very responsible people at a very young age. And I can remember things like that. But, to say like we were shifted very strongly, that would be a disrespect to many people many of your listeners that had very tough times because of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. But the one thing I love, going back to our hypnosis show, one of the things that really draws me to it is it really is a show for all people. I'll give you an example. A couple months ago, I did a show for probably 300 people, all African-American. Okay. I might have been the only white person in the room. The next night we did it at a very ritzy, probably predominantly white country club. And then 2 days after that, we did it at a school where it was very, very diverse. And we got the same reaction each. We've done shows for 200 Mennonites. We've done you name it, and we've done it. So it's what we feel our passion and our mission is. It's truly our mission that we want to bring different types of people together. So, I think this. I can already tell from talking to you for a short period of time that you've surrounded yourself from all different types of people. And what we'd like to think we can do with our show is bring all different types of people together and have them have a common experience and realize that, yeah, there's a lot of differences, but there's also a lot of similarities. And with all the problems that we're having in our country right now, I feel if we can have more platforms like that, where we can bring different types of people together for an hour and a half, to put our differences aside and to laugh together, that through that experiences, we can have people that normally wouldn't be around different types of people, whether it's color, whether it's culture, whatever it is, that we can start to build bonds and realize that, there's so much good that we can do when we just collectively put our best efforts, together and go after a common goal of just togetherness in diversity.
Absolutely. I was telling you that this morning, I got off the plane from Hawaii and came in, and my wife is Austrian. And
oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, we were married in our backyard last year, and then we went to Austria for 2 weeks, and her mom said, well, you were married in American soil. You have to get married in Austrian soil. So we got married in their backyard again. And that's one of the things that I always kind of note, and it's so subtle but so poignant, is that no matter where you go, people are going through the exact same experiences, have the exact same emotions. It's just this contrived thing that says we're different. So when it comes to marriage, it's just two people who are forming a bond and trying to get a common goal, which is to live fruitfully, live happily, and produce great people. So I commend you guys on that.
Well, and I'm guessing your kids are biracial then, correct?
Well, this is a good one. So, like I said, my wife she brought 2 children with her, and they look nothing like me. So usually when we're walking down the street, they're looking at me like that guy has the weakest genetics ever.
I can identify with that.
So, but most of the time, it doesn't matter because children don't have that predisposition that's been imposed upon them unless someone does it. So they see me as their guardian, their friend, and their protector and their guidance. So that's all I can ask and put forth is to make sure that we pull out good humans, and we do that by having a good relationship.
And see, to me, you're modeling for the community, like not any specific community, but for our country, internationally, whatever. I look at my youngest son, right? Because I told you my two older are, they're African American, and my youngest son is biracial. All right, but they're all my kid. I never even bring that up. Now if you saw them, you would know.
Yep.
Like I'm a big guy. I'm 6'2", 240 pounds. My older son, okay, he's how tall is he, Shell? He's 5'4", and he probably weighs $125. All right, I mean, I could wear him in my pocket, but he and I have all my kids I have great bonds with, but he and I, since he was a baby, since he first walked, he has been my shadow. I mean, literally my shadow, and I see so much of me in him, even though there's not an ounce, of my blood in him, but I see so much of me in him. And my daughter, who's 30 years old, she's a teacher. I was a former teacher. When she smiles, I see my smile. And I know that sounds weird, but her personality, there's so many things that I can see. And, that causes, not that we ever butted heads, but now that she's 30 years old, we have such an incredible relationship. But then I look at my youngest son, who looks a lot like me, okay, when I was his age. But you look at him and you wouldn't know what he is. And it's like, what is this kid? Is he black? Is he white? Is he, And to me, I mean, that's just like what it's about. It's like, what is this kid? Does it really matter? Like, does it really matter? And, I'd like to think that, through the efforts that you're doing, that you're just naturally doing it. You're not doing it to try to prove anything to anybody. You're just living your life. And that's what, we're excited about our reality TV show, because if you do your research, there's really no reality TV shows, okay, that have the main characters. There might be one or two, but that have the main characters that they're an interracial couple. Yet, if you look at the current statistics, 1 out of 6 newlyweds are interracial marriages. I don't know if you knew that. Versus in 1990, 64% of non-black family members disapproved of their relatives marrying, interracial. Versus now, there's only I want to say 87% approve of it. Say that's great, that's fine. So we're moving in the right direction, And again, this isn't to say that people shouldn't marry within their race. Definitely should, but we shouldn't really even put that anywhere on the map of why we should decide whether we should marry somebody or not.
That's absolutely true. One of the things that I've seen over the years is that hip hop has brought a lot of people who would have been segregated before. They're culturally bringing them together. So now the things that you thought were so outrageous are part of your culture, whether you're black, white, Muslim, Asian, or Latino. It doesn't matter. And that's one of the things we're finally coming to, the promise that we said America was supposed to be, which is, I commend everybody who embraces the true culture of this country. Now, I want to ask you about your show. Where can people see it if they are not local to your jurisdiction?
Yeah, well, the website, if you go to hypnotizingamerica.com. So hypnotizing, that's HYPNOTIZING, America.com. You can get a lot of information there. We feel we're going to be on a national level in the upcoming months. We don't know that yet, but we definitely have an opportunity probably in 2 months that we're going to be putting these episodes on iTunes. But for right now, if they visit into hypnotizingamerica.com, also we have our stage show, which we travel a good bit. Obviously the majority is in the tri-state areas of Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania. But we're going to be doing some shows, obviously in New York coming up. We get on the West Coast once in a while. So we just love people. We love doing what we're doing. They can find us in all the social media, platforms, but we love connecting with people. So any of your listeners, first of all, I just want to thank you so much for having us on or having me on. We love meeting people. So please, if you're listening, check out our website at hypnotizingAmerica.com.
Awesome. Do you have a Facebook page or a fan page?
Yes, I do. If they go to Stage Hypnosis Live, so it's Stage and then Hypnosis, Hypnosis Live, they will see that. And then if I could, would you mind if I give Instagram and Twitter?
You can do what this is for you.
All right, my friend. All right. Our Instagram is Tim_Miller_hypnotist, HYPNOTIST. The Twitter is at Stage, STAGE, Hypno, HYPNO, Live. So Stage Hypno Live is the Twitter. And, we're working to build that base. As you know, that's our world that we're in. A year ago, I had no Instagram, no Twitter, none of that. I was a football coach. You know what I mean? I didn't get into all that stuff. And now I've recognized the importance. So we have like 15,000 followers. We're still plugging away on that. So we would love to interact with your listeners. And I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying this, to talk with somebody. We have a lot of similarities that we didn't know that, I think, before.
That's all
talking,
right.
But it's very enjoyable.
We fam now. You don't know that.
We're family. Oh, you better be careful, brother. You're in for it now.
So when you come,
I'll email you the first episode so you can see it, and then you can make a decision whether you want to identify. I'm a little crazy.
That's all right. I'm just as crazy. But if you're ever in Chicago area, hit your man up and we'll get it done. And because I am coming to Philly actually in July, and maybe before that, because I travel a lot. But I'm definitely going to hit you up and
you better.
And
I'll come find you. I will. Don't let me find you in the Philadelphia area and not hit me up. I'll come find you.
Yeah, because you got 1 inch and 30 pounds on me, so I don't want to. Hey, but
we're both too old, brother. We're both too old.
Yeah.
We'll look at each other and say, we want to just go out and get something to eat.
Hey, do you have any tips from your experience? Do you have any tips for the listeners so that they can solidify their marriage the way you have done over these last 30 years?
Here, I think I'm a big person in, like, if you have goals or whatever, you always have to write them down, right? So, it's funny because in a lot of our areas of business, like I relate to football, you pick somebody in football, they're great at goal-oriented, everything else. But then when you talk about your relationship, you don't sometimes carry those same things for why you've been successful in other areas of your life. So I'm big into, like, write down, your goals within your relationship separately and then come together, talk about it. But don't talk about it in a time when times are tough. Decide to talk about it when times are good, and say, like, let's look forward, let's try to build something, because no one gets together with the plan of getting, of divorcing or breaking up. No one does. Right. So why not establish those things early in the relationship and then from time to time, come together in a fun way, in a fun way of trying, because you're going to have rough times. And the biggest advice I could give is understand that the things you see on TV, everything else, these relationships, all of them, you're not going to be successful unless you overcome the tough times. You're not going to be able to change some things that drive you crazy about the person that you love. You're not. You'll just be able to come to grips with that none of us are perfect, right? I mean, we're all screwed up. We like to act like we got our act all together,
true.
But we're all screwed up, right? And if you're going to leave that person, you're going to find somebody else that's also screwed up, right? It's just going to happen. So come to the realization that to write down your goals in the relationship, share those goals early as possible that you can, all right? And understand that those goals and those things are going to change because we as people change and we evolve.
You're the man. So I want to thank you so much for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast, and thank your wife too.
Oh yeah, she's awesome. She's been writing everything down to tell me what to say. Because I'm clueless. She's really writing everything down, so I say every word she tells me to say.
You know, the foundation, and I don't hate to say it, but I'm just going to have it to give credit where credit is due. A lot of the things that have helped me to prosper in my life have come from the women in my life, because they give me they give me a very different perspective of my masculine, stoic, sometimes stubborn sense, and causes me to take a step back. And I always say this: my wife is so emotionally intelligent, and she says this to me when I'm like gorilla mode. She says, "Baby, I need you to do this." And I'm like, "What?" And she says, "Those emotions that you're having, transpose those to words."
That's great. That's great advice.
That's great advice. So,
you know, the strongest people I've ever known in my life have been women, without question. My mother, my wife, her mother, you know, these are people that and they're all different. All three of them are totally different, but they're very smart. They're very strong. And, you know, I come across as a very strong personality, strong figure, but, you know, my wife is my backbone. Like, she is. She's my backbone. I love her to death.
Awesome. So that's Tim Miller's comedy stage hypnosis that you guys can see, particularly if you're in the tri-states area of, what's that, Philly, Delaware, and
Jersey.
Jersey. Yeah. Spent a lot of time there. I spent a lot of time in Camden too. I'm not going to talk about that. Anyway.
We're actually just about to ride through there. We're getting close to the home.
So I want you guys to go have an awesome day. I'm about to go do my 5x5 workout and then have my wife's cheat day. So thank you so much for being on the show.
No, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate all your listeners. Thank you so much. And you better hit me up when you're in Philly.
I will.
Don't let me find out that you're here in Philly and you didn't hit me up.
I will. So here's what I do at the end of every show. There's several things that you have to do, and it's changed a little bit since I had Jane Elliott, which was the Brown Eyes, Blue Eyes creator exercise.
Wow.
There's things that you have to do. You have to, A, love yourself and appreciate yourself, because that love is going to give you an intelligence for loving those who are around you. B, you have to be just. The Bible says, all the doctrine says, at the very least, treat those who are outside your eyeballs like you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
If we all just do that, this world will always see how we are all billionaires. We have 1 billion cells, 1 billion thoughts, 1 billion emotions. Till next time, peace. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks so much, Emmett.
All right, and we are done.